for 134 days. This was a search, a missing child case, an Outback emergency, helicopters in the sky, dogs on the ground, volunteers walking kilometre after kilometre under a brutal Australian sun. Police said they were looking, hoping, praying for a sign. Then, suddenly, South Australia Police changed one word. Not search and rescue, major crime. That shift means something. It means investigators no longer believe this was an accident. It means they're no longer asking, where did he wander? They're asking what happened inside that station. And for the first time, their focus has narrowed to someone who was already there. When you strip this case back to the beginning, it sounds almost ordinary. A family property in the South Australian Outback. Wide land, open sky, heat rising off red earth. A 4-year-old boy playing near the homestead. A place he knew. Adults nearby. Familiar ground, nothing unusual. At some point that afternoon, Gus Lamont is seen, for what will later be called the last confirmed time. Not on a highway, not in a city, but on a remote station, where strangers stand out instantly, and everyone knows who belongs. Then, within what feels like moments, he's gone. At first, there's no panic, no sirens, no chaos. Family members assume he's wandered, maybe chasing an animal, maybe exploring a shed, maybe walking toward a fence line he's seen 100 times before. They search on foot. They call his name. They check the house, the sheds, the vehicles, the nearby tanks, the fences. Minutes stretch. 1 hour, then 2, then 3. During that time, no emergency call is made. Out here, people solve problems themselves. If a child wanders, you look, you shout, you cover ground. You expect to see them return, dusty, maybe crying, but alive. Gus doesn't return. When police are finally contacted, the tone changes immediately. What began as a family search becomes an operation. Officers arrive. Command is established. Search coordinators take control. Within hours, the Outback sky is filled with aircraft. Helicopters, drones, thermal cameras sweeping the land below. On the ground, dozens move in grids, shoulder to shoulder. Quad bikes push into scrub. 4-wheel drives scan tracks. Dams are checked. Fences are walked. Officially, this is still a missing person case. The working theory is simple. Gus wandered, and he became lost. The mission is rescue, not recovery. But even in those first days, something doesn't sit right. Search teams expect to find something, a footprint, a dropped object, a scrap of fabric, any sign that a small child moved through this landscape. Instead, almost nothing. No clear trail, no obvious direction. And while police are still calling it a tragic disappearance, small pieces of the timeline are already shifting. Small differences between what was said and when it was said. In every missing child case, there is a moment when the focus shifts. At first, everyone is a witness. Then slowly, someone becomes something else. In the disappearance of Gus Lamont, police have now made one thing clear. They believe one specific person on that property knows more than they are saying. Not Gus's mother, not his father, a resident of Oak Park Station. In the early days, this person does what anyone would expect. They help, they answer questions. They walk the land with police and volunteers. They sit for interviews. From the outside, it looks genuine. It fits the narrative. A little boy wandered. The community pulls together, but detectives don't stop at appearances. They build timelines. Who was where? Who saw what? Who moved when? And that's when something begins to bother them. The version of events given by this resident doesn't fully match what others describe. Police won't release every detail, but they confirm one phrase: inconsistencies in the timeline. When investigators line up the hours, the movements, the conversations, the exact sequence, this person's account doesn't quite fit. Maybe it starts small, a location that shifts, a gap that isn't clearly explained, details that change between interviews. On their own, these things could mean nothing. Stress, confusion, memory under pressure. But in a major investigation, tiny cracks are where detectives begin digging. Then comes the turning point. After initially cooperating, the resident changes approach. Direct communication stops. Questions are no longer answered freely. From that moment on, everything goes through a lawyer. Publicly, they go quiet. Now, this matters. Getting legal advice is a right. Lawyers protect the innocent as much as the guilty. But when you combine a missing child, timeline inconsistencies, and sudden silence, questions rise. What changed? Did they feel investigators closing in? Did they fear being blamed? Or is the silence hiding something more? Police no longer describe this individual as just a witness. They use a different word: suspect. That single word changes the entire mood. Because if this is no longer a child who wandered, then it suggests someone on that property may know exactly what happened. And if that's true, then somewhere behind the silence, behind the controlled statements, there may already be answers that the public hasn't heard. When police first arrived at Oak Park, this was a desperate search. A missing child. Time critical, rescue focused. But over time, the language changed. Behind the scenes, detectives kept reviewing everything. The scale of the search, the absence of physical clues, the interviews, the timelines, the behavior of key individuals. And slowly, a different conclusion began to form. This was not just a boy lost in the Outback. South Australia police have now officially reclassified the case as a major crime. That phrase carries weight. It means investigators believe a criminal act occurred, and it means they no longer expect to find Gus alive. That shift is enormous because police do not move from missing person to major crime on instinct. They need reasons. One of the biggest reasons was the search itself. It was massive, methodical, relentless. Ground teams moved in tight grids. Helicopters swept from above. Drones mapped every angle. Creeks were checked. Dams examined. Tanks cleared. Outbuildings searched. Tracks monitored. In genuine wandering cases, searchers almost always find something: a footprint, disturbed soil, a dropped object, fabric on a fence. Here, after thousands of hours, almost nothing. No clear direction, no confirmed trail. For investigators, that absence starts to speak, because if a 4-year-old walked away alone in terrain like this, he would leave a trace. If an animal attack occurred, there would likely be evidence. None has been confirmed publicly. So detectives are forced into a darker line of thinking. Was Gus removed, moved deliberately, taken in a way that erased the obvious signs? That's when the internal timeline becomes critical. Who was with him last? Who had access to vehicles? Who could move freely without raising suspicion? Who belonged there so naturally that no one would question their presence? Police have not released every detail, but they have confirmed something crucial. There is no evidence of a stranger arriving. No confirmed unknown vehicle, No report of an outsider. If no one came in from outside, then whatever happened likely happened within a very small circle. Declaring a major crime also changes the resources. Homicide detectives step in. Crime scene specialists re-examine everything. Prosecutors begin reviewing potential paths to charge. Every statement is rechecked, every hour scrutinized. Digital data, phones, movements, messages, analyzed in greater depth. And yet, there are still gaps. No body recovered, no weapon identified, no arrest. The case now sits in a painful space. Too many red flags for a simple disappearance, but not enough publicly known evidence for a courtroom. For Gus's family, this shift cuts both ways. It means police are treating this as serious as it gets, but it also signals that hope of rescue has likely been replaced with something far more devastating. And for everyone watching, one question becomes impossible to ignore. If this is a major crime, with a likely victim and an identified suspect, what is missing? That prevents an arrest? Because somewhere between silence, timelines, and the empty landscape of Oak Park, the answer still exists. When a case reaches this stage, a missing child, a declared major crime, a named suspect, but no charges, the line between fact and theory begins to widen. On one side, what police can say. On the other, what the public thinks may have happened. Let's start with the facts that create the biggest questions. First, no confirmed physical trace of Gus has been found. That detail alone weakens several possibilities. If he had wandered and died from exposure, search teams would likely have found something: clothing, remains, a direction of travel. The area was searched quickly and repeatedly. If there had been an animal attack, there would usually be signs: blood, disturbed soil, drag patterns. None have been confirmed publicly. So attention shifts elsewhere. One theory suggests an accident on the property, a fall, a vehicle, machinery. In that version, the crime isn't the injury. It's the decision to hide it. To make that theory work, you need opportunity, access to transport, time, knowledge of the land. Another, darker theory goes further: that Gus was deliberately harmed by someone he knew. There is no public confession, no confirmed motive. But supporters of this view point to three things: the absence of a wandering trail, the major crime reclassification, and the fact that police now describe a specific resident as a suspect. There is also the outsider theory, a stranger passing near the property, but police have said there is no clear evidence of an unknown arrival, no confirmed suspicious vehicle, no widely reported outsider. Not impossible, but based on what's been revealed, less likely. So, if suspicion rests inside the property, why hasn't there been an arrest? This is where suspicion meets the law. Belief is not enough. In Australia, to charge and to convict, prosecutors need evidence. That survives a courtroom. That usually means one or more of the following: physical evidence, DNA, trace material, digital proof, location data, messages, witness testimony. That holds under cross-examination, clear forensic proof of death, or a confession. From what is publicly known, several of those pillars are missing. No body recovered, no confirmed cause of death, no publicly identified crime scene. That doesn't mean evidence doesn't exist. It may mean what investigators have is largely circumstantial, inconsistencies, opportunity, behavior, but not yet the final unbreakable link. For Gus's family, this creates a different kind of pain. No clear answers, no grave to visit, no one legally held accountable. For investigators, the case remains active, and cases like this sometimes break years later. A relationship collapses, a conscience cracks, land is disturbed, technology advances, or one small detail in old evidence suddenly looks different. Until that moment comes, the central questions remain. What happened in the hours between the last confirmed sighting and the call for help? Why does one person's account sit so uneasily beside the others? And does someone already know the truth, but choose not to say it? Somewhere, in memory, in silence, or in evidence not yet uncovered. The full story exists until it's revealed. The disappearance of 4-year-old Gus Lamont remains more than a case file. It is a question mark hanging over Oak Park, Bendoe, and over the people who were there the day he vanished. If you've watched this far, you already understand something. This is not just a headline, not just a major crime file. It's the story of a 4-year-old boy who should have grown up, gone to school, made friends, laughed with his family. Instead, his name now sits inside an investigation with more questions than answers. Right now, only a few things feel certain. Gus did not simply vanish. Someone somewhere knows more than they've said, and until that truth surfaces, justice remains unfinished. So, where does that leave us? If the answer lies inside that property, what do you believe happened during those missing hours? Was it a tragic accident followed by panic? A deliberate act by someone he trusted? Or is there still a piece of this puzzle that hasn't been properly seen? Share your thoughts below, especially what you believe is the single biggest red flag. But as we debate timelines and suspects, don't forget who this is really about. A little boy named Gus. He deserved a future, not a mystery. If you value careful, evidence-based investigations like this, consider subscribing to Case Reveal. Until the next case, stay curious, stay critical, and remember, behind silence and shifting timelines, the truth always leaves something behind.